Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The phone on the obsidian conference table didn't just light up. It screamed in the silence of the boardroom like a gunshot in a library. I froze, my thumb hovering over my own screen, the sent receipt mocking me with a cheerful little ding that echoed only in my mind. 3 seconds ago, I had typed a message to the man I knew only as Max, the anonymous lover I'd met on a faceless app for insomniacs. The message read, "If the Ice King looks at me with that disdain one more time, I'm going to spill boiling espresso on his custom Italian lap." And 3 seconds later, the sleek, black device belonging to Cashin Thorne, CEO of Thorne Enterprises, tyrant of the business world, and the man currently glaring at the marketing director, lit up with a notification. The room was cold, climate-controlled to a temperature that kept employees alert and shivering, but sweat prickled at the back of my neck. Coincidence? It had to be a coincidence. Cashin didn't look at the phone immediately. His gaze remained fixed on the trembling director presenting the quarterly projections. Cashin sat like a monarch on a throne of chrome and leather, his silver-gray eyes sharp enough to cut glass. He was beautiful in a terrifying, devastating way, sharp jawline, hair the color of midnight ink, and a mouth that rarely curved into anything other than a sneer of disapproval. I was Julian Vance, his executive assistant. I was the keeper of the schedule, the gatekeeper of his time, and the primary victim of his impossible standards. I knew everything about him. I knew his coffee order. I knew his dry cleaning schedule. I knew he had no family, no friends, and no hobbies other than acquiring rival companies and destroying them. He did not have a dating life. And he certainly wasn't Max. Max was warm. Max sent me voice notes at 2 a.m. telling me I was worth more than my job. Max liked vintage jazz and hated the texture of velvet. Max was my sanctuary. Mr. Vance? Cashin's voice sliced through my panic. It was a baritone rumble that usually made my stomach tighten with anxiety. "Sir." I straightened, clutching my tablet to my chest like a shield. Cashin's eyes flicked to his phone, then slowly up to me. A ghost of an emotion passed over his face, too fast to catch. Amusement? Recognition? Check that notification. If it isn't the merger update from Tokyo, dismiss it. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was a test. It was always a test with him. I stepped forward, my legs feeling like lead. I reached for the phone. The screen was dark now. I tapped it. The lock screen was a generic architectural abstract. I took a breath and glanced at the banner notification. New message from Gender Scurvy. Message. If the Ice King looks at me with that disdain one more time. The world tilted on its axis. I shoved the phone back onto the table, face down, my fingers trembling. It was spam, sir. A promotional offer. Cashin studied me. He leaned back, steepling his long, elegant fingers. "Spam," he repeated. "The filters on my private line are designed by military-grade AI. And yet, spam got through. I'll have IT look into it immediately," I choked out, retreating to my corner. "Do that," Cashin murmured, turning back to the marketing director. "Continue. And stop shaking, Johnson. You look like prey." I stood there, the blood draining from my face. My boss, the man I fantasized about strangling on a daily basis, was the man I had been sexting for 3 months. The rest of the day was a blur of high-stakes negotiations and internal screaming. Every time my pocket buzzed, I jumped. We were in the middle of a hostile takeover of a logistics firm. The tension in the office was palpable, a heavy fog of stress that usually made Cashin thrive. He was a predator. Chaos was his natural habitat. But today he seemed distracted. I sat at my desk outside his massive glass-walled office, staring at my computer screen without seeing the spreadsheets. I needed to verify this. Could have been a glitch. Maybe he hacked my phone? No, that was paranoid. Why would a billionaire hack his assistant's dating app? I pulled out my phone. I needed to be sure. I opened the app, Velvet Void. It was designed for anonymity. No photos, just BIOS and chat. I typed, Jundaservi. Rough day? Through the glass wall I watched him. Cashin was reviewing a contract, a fountain pen in his hand. A second later he paused. He reached into his suit jacket pocket. My phone buzzed. Max, you have no idea. My assistant is acting strange today. Skittish. Like he's hiding a body. I stared at him. He didn't look up. He typed one-handed, his face impassive, then went back to the contract. Jundaservi, maybe he's just stressed. You said you're hard on him. Cashin picked up his phone again. Max, I'm hard on everyone. But he usually takes it. He has a spine of steel. It's the only reason I haven't fired him. That, and he makes the only decent coffee in the city. I put my phone down, feeling lightheaded. It wasn't just that he was Max. It was that he respected me. Cashin Thorne, who once made an intern cry for using the wrong font size, thought I had a spine of steel. The cognitive dissonance was blinding. Max was the man who had talked me through a panic attack last week. Max was the one who said, "Good boys need rest too, Jay," in a voice note that I had replayed an embarrassing number of times. That voice. It was deeper on the recording, softer. But the cadence. God, how had I missed it? I had to end it. I had to delete the app and pretend this never happened. But as I reached to delete my account, a new message popped up. Max, I need to blow off steam. Meet me. We had never met. That was the rule. We kept it digital to keep it safe. Jundaservi, you know the rules, Max. Max, screw the rules. I need you. Tonight. The Sapphire Lounge. 9 p.m. Wear the blue tie you mentioned once. I looked through the glass. Cashin was staring directly at me. He wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking at me. His eyes were dark, unreadable, locking onto mine with a predatory intensity that made my breath hitch. He knew. He had to know. The specific mention of the blue tie. I was wearing a cobalt blue tie right now. He was playing with me. Anger, hot and sudden, flushed through my veins, replacing the fear. He was mocking me. He had probably known for weeks, laughing at his pathetic assistant pouring his heart out to a digital phantom. Fine. He wanted to play. I stood up, grabbed my tablet, and marched into his office without knocking. Cashin didn't flinch. I didn't summon you, Julian. Schedule update, sir, I said, my voice steady despite the rage boiling in my gut. You have an appointment tonight at 9 p.m. He raised an eyebrow, a slow, arrogant arch. Do I? I don't recall approving that. It's personal, I said, walking up to his desk. I placed my hands on the mahogany surface and leaned in, invading his personal space. At the Sapphire Lounge, the silence that stretched between us was heavy, charged with static electricity. The air conditioning hummed, sounding like a distant storm. Cashin stood up. He was taller than me, broader. He loomed, casting a shadow over the desk. He walked around the edge, closing the distance until he was inches from me. I could smell him, sandalwood, expensive scotch, and the crisp scent of ozone. And who am I meeting? He asked, his voice dropping to that low rumble that Max used. Someone who hates being toyed with, I whispered. Cashin's hand moved, lightning fast. He grabbed my chin, his fingers strong and warm, tilting my head back. And if I wasn't toying with you? You're Cashin Thorne, I spat. You don't do anything without a strategy. You found out who I was, and you decided to see how far you could push me. I found out 2 weeks ago, he admitted, his thumb brushing my lower lip. The sensation sent a shockwave straight to my groin. I recognized the way you phrase your insults. You have a poetic way of describing your hatred for authority. And you didn't say anything? Why would I? His eyes searched mine, the icy facade cracking to reveal a hunger that terrified me. If I told you, you would have run. You would have resigned. And he paused, struggling with the words. I have become addicted to you, Julian. To Jay. This is harassment, I said weakly, though I didn't pull away. Is it? Cashin leaned down, his lips brushing against my ear. Because the messages you sent last night, the things you said you wanted Max to do to you, they didn't sound like you wanted to file an HR complaint. My face burned. The things I had typed, the explicit, desperate need I had confessed to the void. That was to Max, I insisted. Not to my boss. We are the same man, Cashin murmured. He stepped back, releasing me, but the loss of contact felt like a physical blow. Go home, Julian. Get changed. If you show up at the Sapphire Lounge tonight, we finish this conversation. If you don't, we delete the apps, and tomorrow it's back to business as usual. I won't mention it again. He turned his back to me, staring out at the city skyline, a solitary figure against the gray sky. I should have stayed home. I should have packed my bags, moved to a farm in Idaho, and raised goats. But at 9:05 p.m., I walked into the Sapphire Lounge. It was dimly lit, smelling of old leather and money. Cashin was in a booth at the back, shadowed and secluded. He wasn't wearing his suit jacket. His top button was undone, his tie loose. It was a state of undress I had never seen in 3 years of employment. I slid into the booth opposite him. He pushed a glass of whiskey toward me. Neat. The way you like it. This is a mistake, I said, taking the glass. Calculated risk, he corrected. Why? I asked. Why the app? You can have anyone. Cashin let out a short, bitter laugh. Can I? Everyone wants something from me, Julian. Money, influence, access. On Velvet Void, I was just a voice. And you were the first person in years who spoke to me without an agenda. You hated your boss, you were tired, you were lonely. It was honest. I hated you, I pointed out. You hated the persona, Cashin said. The mask I have to wear to keep this empire from being eaten alive by vultures. But you liked Max. Max was kind. I can be kind, Cashin said, his voice soft. To you. Only to you. He reached across the table, his hand palm up. An offering. I hesitated. This was crossing the Rubicon. If I took his hand, the line between boss and employee, between duty and desire, would be erased forever. The power dynamic would shift into something complex and dangerous. But I remembered the nights I couldn't sleep, and how his messages were the only thing grounding me. I remembered the loneliness in his eyes when he thought no one was watching. I placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine, possessing me. So, I said, my voice trembling slightly, does this mean I get a raise? Cashin smirked, the expression transforming his face from cold marble to something devastatingly handsome. Don't push your luck, Mr. Vance. But we might be able to negotiate overtime benefits. The next month was a blur of adrenaline and secrecy. Navigating the office was a psychological minefield. In the boardroom, he was still the Ice King, ruthless, demanding, sharp. He barked orders, criticized reports, and terrified the interns. But now, when he caught my eye across the table, there was a heat that hadn't been there before. Under the table, during meetings, his foot would sometimes press against mine. A secret language. We fell into a rhythm. I would drive him home, the privacy partition up, and the moment the tinted glass rose, his hands would be on me. The stress of the day would explode into frantic, desperate passion in the back of his Maybach. He was possessive, demanding, and insatiable, exactly like Max. But the double life was exhausting, and secrets have a way of festering. The breaking point came during the annual shareholders gala. It was a black tie event, swarming with paparazzi and industry sharks. I was running point on logistics, my headset buzzing with security updates. Cashin was circulating, a shark among minnows, charming investors and intimidating rivals. I was in the hallway, trying to fix a catering crisis, when I heard voices around the corner. Thorne is vulnerable right now, a voice sneered. It was Silas Vane, Cashin's biggest competitor. I've heard rumors. He's distracted. Slipping. Distracted by what? Another voice asked. Not what. Who? The help. His little assistant. My blood ran cold. I have photos, Vane continued. Grainy but enough. Him entering the assistant's apartment at 3 a.m., leaving at 6. If we leak this, the morality clause in his contract kicks in. The board will oust him. I backed away, my heart pounding. They were going to destroy him, and it was my fault. I found Cashin on the balcony, escaping the noise. He looked majestic in his tuxedo, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. "We have a problem," I whispered, stepping into the shadows with him. He turned, smiling when he saw me. "The canapes are cold?" "Vane knows," I said. "He has photos of you coming to my place. He's gonna leak them to the board. He wants to trigger your morality clause." Cashin's smile vanished. The temperature on the balcony seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Vane," he said, the name sounding like a curse. "I'll resign," I said quickly. "I'll draft a statement saying I pursued you, that you rejected me, but I was persistent. We can spin it. I'll take the fall." Cashin grabbed my shoulders, his grip bruising. "Stop. It's the only way to save the company, Cashin. You've worked your whole life for this." "I don't care about the company," he snarled, shaking me slightly. "I care about you. You're the CEO. You have to care." "I am Max," he shouted, his voice cracking. "Before I am a CEO, before I am a thorn, I am the man who loves you. Do you think I built this empire just to be a slave to it? I built it to have the power to do whatever the hell I want." I stared at him, stunned. He had never said the L word. Not even as Max. "You love me?" Cashin let out a ragged breath. He looked terrified. The great Cashin Thorne, afraid of a feeling. "Yes," he rasped. "And I am not letting some second-rate hustler like Silas Vane dictate my life. So what do we do?" Cashin straightened his jacket. The Ice King mask slid back into place, but his eyes remained warm. "We control the narrative. We don't hide. We don't cower." He offered me his arm. "Walk in there with me." "Cashin, are you insane?" "The board. I own 51% of the voting shares as of this morning," he said calmly. "I bought my aunt's holding. I am the board. Let Vane release his photos. It will just be free publicity for our engagement." My jaw dropped. "Our what?" "We're dating now," he said, pulling me close. "Try to keep up, Julian. It's going to be a wild ride." He didn't wait for an answer. He dragged me back into the ballroom. The chatter died down as we entered. All eyes turned to us. Vane was standing near the bar, a smug grin on his face, holding a manila envelope. Cashin walked straight to the center of the room. He took a microphone from the stunned band leader. "Ladies and gentlemen," Cashin's voice boomed, commanding absolute silence. "Thank you for coming. I have a brief announcement regarding the future of Thorne Enterprises." He looked at Vane, his eyes glittering with malice. Then he looked at me, and his expression softened into something that made the entire room gasp. "For years, I have prioritized profit over life. That changes today. I would like to introduce you to the person who has single-handedly ensured this company runs smoothly, and the only person I trust with my life." He reached out, pulling me to his side. "Julian Vance, my partner, in business and in life." The room erupted. Flashbulbs blinded me. Vane dropped his envelope, his leverage vaporized in seconds. Cashin leaned in, ignoring the chaos, ignoring the shouting reporters. "Breathe, Julian," he whispered against my ear. "I've got you." I looked at him, my boss, my tormentor, my lover. "You're insane," I said, smiling despite the terror. "I'm yours," he corrected. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf, not with poison, but with a truth that shattered the glass walls they built around themselves. If you enjoyed seeing Julian finally take his rightful place beside the throne, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you risk your entire career for a secret romance with your boss? Or is the paycheck worth more than love? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,